our Borough President, Eric Adams, for coming here to Borough Park, for coming to the Borough Park Jewish Community Council, and for being here at a time when the world is going through so much of a crisis, and in Borough Park we're all experiencing this, as is any other neighborhood. And to have a Borough President come here, it's a very meaningful step, and we really look forward to hearing from the Borough President his thoughts about what we're currently in the midst of and what could be done to make a better tomorrow, to make things better for us. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Borough President for bringing here thousands of masks, which will be distributed for people in the community that need these masks. Just being here is an incredible show of support, and we're grateful to the Borough President, and thank you so much. I also want to take this moment to thank and to welcome our Councilman Kalman Yeager. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for being our Borough Park's Councilman. We'll be hearing today from Ilan Kornblum as well, from Great Kosher Restaurants. We'll be talking a bit about what the restaurant industry is suffering. Yossi Itzkowitz will be here, maybe here soon. If not, we'll be going by his store shortly from Toys for You, speaking on what really local businesses, small businesses are experiencing now, and what they're really suffering, and how we together can come together to help small businesses get through these very trying and difficult times. So we're a day after Yom Kippur, and we're a couple of days before the holiday of Sukkot, and it's a time of celebration, time of spending time with people, with friends, with family. And in the midst of all of this, we are dealing with this unprecedented crisis. And so we're going to be talking about some solutions. We're very eager to hear from the Borough President to tell us a bit, some perspective, some ideas, some insight as to what we're going through and what we can do to improve our situation and hopefully get through this crisis with the least amount of damage. I'll take this opportunity to welcome Borough President Eric Adams. Thank you again for coming to the Borough Park Jewish Community Council.
Thank you so much, and really want to thank the Borough Park JCC. We have come together on several different initiatives throughout the years. It's an amazing organization. And Alex is not here, Alex Rappaport from SPEAR, another organization that's on the ground and deals with the food insecurity that occurs in this community, and communication, which is so important. And Ilan Kornblum, the Great Kosher Restaurants, thank you so much, as he talks about, and he will engage in what has happened all over this city in the restaurant industry, and how we must come together. And oftentimes, some people stated that restaurants are for the rich. I know a different story as a former dishwasher in a restaurant, helping pay bills. Restaurants are for the everyday people that allows them to provide a living standard in their homes. And so, Ilan, thank you. We're going to continue to partner with them as we transition to get our restaurants open. And our Councilman Kalman Yeager understands the severity of this pandemic that is national in scope. It's crucial that government policymakers, the public, our faith-based institutions, our organizations, that we all come together. That's what this is about, and that is so important to me. So I'm here today, not only here in Borough Park, but we're going to be going throughout the city to deal with this issue. Wherever there is any form of call of services, we're going to partner with organizations like the Shalom. We're going to partner with Reverend Terry Lee in Flatbush. We're going to partner with our allies in any area of the city to get on the ground. Because you can't solve issues if you stay far removed. You come to the local organizations, the local JCCs, the local community-based organizations. This is how we solve problems. The mistake we made at the beginning of COVID-19, instead of communicating on the ground, we thought we could solve the problem by just doing briefings as though everyone received their information that way. Instead of reaching out to traditional organizations to actually go out and implement an on-the-ground plan like we're going to do today, handing out masks. And then the solutions are on the ground. There's no reason communities like these, communities throughout the city, that they cannot partner with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, do their own testing under the supervision of the city, in partnership with the city, to understand the cultural norms of the amazing diversity in the city, utilizing the form of testing that the city would approve. You have advocates in this community and other communities who are willing to actually put up the cost to make sure the testing is done according to the city standards. But we are recognizing the cultural norms of those communities. This is not a one-size-fits-all to a multiple, extremely complicated pandemic. It's going to take communication, all the languages, understanding all the cultures, and be willing to think differently on how do we cater the approach for different communities. This is not a moment to attack each other. This is not a moment to demonize each other. This is a moment where we as New Yorkers must come together and find out, how do I bring you to the comfort level so we can resolve the issues by communicating with you, coordinating with you, and coming to a solution. So we've been looking at the numbers, and we know that our entire city must come together and resolve this. That's why I'm in this community today, and I'm going to be moving around to other communities as well, because all of the city must become conscious on how do we make sure we don't spike in upcoming years. And one of the best ways, in upcoming months, one of the best ways we can do it, we must make sure this is the safest flu season in history. If we don't want to go into a potential increase in October and November, like many of our medical professionals stated, we may, and have to deal with the flu virus. So part of what I'm going to do today as we move around, hand out masks, and go to some of our great organizations like JCC, Maspia, is that we are going to talk about how do we get those flu shots early, how do we have them at these hospitals and some of our local organizations, some of our businesses, some of our other groups, how do we get people to take the flu shot so that we won't be dealing with two crises that we can prevent. And so that's why I'm here today. I'm here today to say to every community in this city, including Borough Park, I'm going to come on the ground, I'm going to meet with your leaders, your organization, and I'm going to say, how do we do a plan together to understand your cultural norms, to understand the best way to get the results we're looking for? How do we partner with city government and ensure that we protect the lives of people in our city? And that's why I'm here. I partner with organizations like JCC, Shalom, other organizations, the local council person, local electeds. We've done this before under difficult times. We can do it again under these times. We are going to save lives throughout this entire city. It was a mistake when some on a national level called coronavirus a pandemic attached to one group. We're not going to make that mistake again by attacking one particular group in this city. We will survive this together, and that's the goal that we want to accomplish. And so I thank all of you for coming together as we make this a safe city for all of us. And I'm going to do my part. I did my part when coronavirus first came here and moved into Borough Hall and went into public housing, went into various communities, partnered with some of the local community-based organizations. I'm going to continue to do my part until we deal with this crisis of COVID-19 and we're able to get back to some sense of normality. Again, thank you all for coming.
Mr. Borough President,
and allowing me
I'd like to ask you a
to
question, Mr. Borough President.
Yes, sir.
Heshi Tischler from the Justin F. Heshi Show. Your record is stellar, helping in not only our community, but in many communities. And as we've addressed our concerns, it's not that we don't mind working with the city. Our wonderful councilman, who's very concerned about us in the JCC, we'd like to, and of course, as I mentioned to you before, independently like to give the city its own testing. We would like to be there for the testing. The health department can oversee what we do and the numbers we will present, because our councilman is more worried about our people than the fake numbers that are being produced. And as you know, those numbers that the health department have produced by Dr. Yarid, he even said 50% of it is incorrect. So, Mr. Borough President, would you be able to set up some kind of an independent organization with our community leaders, with our activists, as well as to be supervised by our councilmen, not only for Borough Park, Flatbush, and Midland, but all of the communities, put an independent independent commission together to watch, to really give the real numbers out and to see how to help our people?
That is one of the best suggestions I've heard throughout the COVID-19. One of the things we suffered in this pandemic is the lack of faith and the lack of trust from government. The lack of faith and the lack of trust from government. And so I'm going to put together that independent conversation. My team is going to meet with, we're going to reach out to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We're going to partner with the councilman, and we're going to sit down and say, if there's a real desire to address an issue in any community, part of the planning of the execution should involve local community leaders. And if you're saying that all we want government is to be a partner to ensure that the numbers are right, that the testing is done right, and that we're using the right testing equipment that you also state is appropriate, that is the least that we can do with government, and I would like to be a partner in making sure that that happens.
Thank you so much, Borough President Eric Adams, for your very inspiring words, for being here, and for your support and your commitment going forward. Thank you so much. I'm about to call up the local councilman, our councilman, Tom Yeager, to speak a few minutes, but I just wanted to acknowledge Morty Getz, who's a business owner from the community. Morty will also be speaking in a moment. Also on what our local businesses are currently going through. And I just want to point out on Morty that he's a philanthropist and is helping this community in such significant ways. Morty has set up single-handedly is funding a program to help give free groceries on an ongoing basis, I think on a never-ending basis, to orphans and widows from COVID-19. This is just unbelievable, really, really so fortunate that you're here, and thank you for everything you're doing for this community. I'd like to introduce our councilman, Tom Yeager, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. First, I just want to acknowledge it needs to be said, even though it really does, but this is not the first time that the Borough President walked the streets of Borough Park when we were under attack. It's not the first time. Just a few months ago, it seems like years ago, we stood in front of Ashford, and the Borough President gave us his shoulder at a time when we were actually sold out of many people's shoulders in public to cry on when we were under attack. And it seems like just yesterday, we were under vicious, violent attack in the city on a daily basis. And a lot of it, I said it publicly, I said it on the floor of the city council, was caused by the media. Was caused by the vicious hatred that the media has for our community. And we are seeing that raise its ugly head again in many different ways. So we'll talk about a lot of moving parts that are happening at the same time. First of all, it's very clear that there are
more cases today in Borough Park of positive than there were 10 weeks ago, 20 weeks ago. That by itself is concerning, but we also have to talk about what that means. What that means. Because we also know that our hospitals are not full of them. Right? We know that Baruch Hashem, we haven't seen Leviathan. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be vigilant. And there are things we can do to keep from rolling backwards. We worked very, very hard, Senator Felder, Senator Menachem, myself, the JCC, business leaders, the borough president, in trying to get the recovery kicked off as quickly as possible, to get our yeshivas back open, to get our shuls back open. We fought for sleepaway camps. We couldn't get that, but we got day camps. We fought hard to get things, and we had successes. It's too vital, those successes that we were able to get, to allow to risk that they roll back at this point. So what do we have to do? It's very simple. Wearing masks is literally the easiest thing we can ask people to do. It is literally the easiest thing. It doesn't take any great effort. The masks are available. Our president's giving them out for the last few months. My office has been giving them out. My senator and assemblyman have been giving them out. Community organizations, the JCC, we've been distributing them in businesses throughout the district. We've been distributing hand sanitizers. There are things that are so basic and simple to do that it doesn't even merit arguing whether or not it's, yes, should we do it? No, should we do it? Just do it. What's the point in arguing why not to, when it's so clear that wearing a mask is safer than not wearing a mask? That's not debatable. What's also not debatable is that in our community, our yeshivas opened up at least a month at this point earlier than public schools. By the time public schools open up, it may even be 2 months earlier. We were bound to see more cases as more people mix and mingle. That's a reality. But the question is, does that reality mean that we're an irresponsible community? No. We are a loving community that takes care of one another. You have never seen in this city a community that, like ours, the charity, the healthcare, the things that are done for one another, that are done for free just because we want to help each other. This is not a community that's risking lives willy-nilly. This is not a community that's endangering ourselves willy-nilly. You read the press, you would think that we're all trying to kill each other, we're all trying to spread a pandemic across the city. This is not something new that we've been accused of. We've been accused of this for hundreds and hundreds of years all across the world. This is an ancient, ancient accusation against the Jewish people. That it's in 2020 and in the New York Post and in the New York Times and in the local papers and on TV doesn't make it new. It just means they're using a new method of distributing that misinformation. What I saw when I walked here today from my office, people on the streets wearing masks. Not everybody, but it's also important to remember what we were told was when you're on the street, you don't have to wear a mask. That's what we were told. We were told if you're walking on the street and you're not walking with strangers, you don't have to wear a mask. If the facts have changed, as the borough president says, the government has an obligation to educate. In a free society, the government can't bark instructions at a community and expect compliance without saying why. You don't want us to go through a red light? I get that. But explain that red lights save lives because it gives people the opportunity to cross safely. That's the point of government. This is a free society. And we want people to do right, but we also demand that government explain the methodology behind what they're talking. And as the question was, what is the methodology? What are we talking about? Are we talking about numbers? What does that mean? Where are these numbers? What are they based on? And I believe, and I believe this firmly, and everything that I've seen and all the people in our community that we've been talking to, in our community, people are not going for random free testing. They're just not. Now, I'm not saying they should, I'm not saying they shouldn't, I'm saying a fact. They are not. The average healthy person on the street is not going to line up for free testing. They haven't been doing it for the last few months. It doesn't mean we can't change that, but they haven't been doing it. So what does that mean? Who is getting tested? People with a propensity to already be ill, people who have exhibited some kind of symptoms or symptomatic in some way, and people who have an obligation to get a test because they're either going to school, they're going to work, like my son who had to get tested before he went back to yeshiva in Israel, people who have an obligation to do so. That means the universe of healthy people being tested is lesser in our community than in other communities. That is not hyperbole, it's not a made-up thing, it's fact. Walk into your typical shul, ask your neighbors, they're not getting tested. The healthy ones are not getting tested. It's just not our thing. Doesn't mean we can't change it. It just means we haven't been doing it. So whether or not we can bring in locally a testing to actually get a real read, not a fake read based on fake data, but a real read on what's happening locally, that's something we need to start exploring. And we need to do it now so that we can actually show the world that everything they've been saying about us are fake, are lies. Now, when you reduce the universe of healthy people who are taking a test, you are increasing the number of people who are going to be positive. The number I hear when I hear 3% positive is, I know 3% positive is more than 1.5% positive, but I hear 97% negative. That's what I hear. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not, a statistician of any kind, but I hear 97% negative. 97% in our community, in this neighborhood, in this zip code, negative. That's very important. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be vigilant, but it means we have an opportunity to protect ourselves, others, our loved ones. Everybody listening to this has people who they lost, cousins who I lost, Rabbanim who I was close with who I lost, in fact, cousins who were Rabbanim who I lost. It doesn't have, I'm not going to go through every single name, but in this room, at this time, I'm going to mention the Nahum, somebody who I personally have missed for the last 6 months my ability to ask him questions and to have the guidance that I need from him. And we've all lost people in our community. We've all lost people. My mother is in a year of availus now for a loss that she had of her mother around Pesach. Everybody has lost people. We are not going to return there. We're not going to return there. We know the pain of losing people in our community, just like every other community has lost people, and we're not going to allow it. My message is to my friends, please. First of all, get fit. And I love you all, I really do. This is a privilege of my life to have an opportunity to stand here and be introduced with such a title. It's not something I ever thought I would have. I'm begging you, please wear masks. It's the one thing I ask. Please, wear masks in the Button of Joshua. Don't let our yeshivas get closed again. Don't let our businesses get closed again. Don't let our streets become what they were in March and April. Don't let our people lose their parnasa. Don't let our kids lose their education and their lives. And chas v'shalom, don't let our seniors get to the point where we're going to have levaya after levaya after levaya like we had chas v'shalom in March and April. Please. Thank you very much.
Mr. Councilman.
One second. Not done, and I promise I'll answer Hashi. Okay. I want to thank you again publicly as much as I thank you privately for everything you do for me personally, for our community, and for our city. And I'll never forget it. And Hashi, I know you're the first guy to jump up. You don't have to call me Mr. Councilman. How long do you know me for?
I know you for many years, but you're still our councilman, and I thank you so much for helping representing and standing out for all of us.
I get you,
I get you, and I hope your family is well. My son loves you, by the way. As like you, son, my son has taken the COVID test, and of course we did it independently, which made sure, like by Dr. Friedman, by the urgent care.
We're going to visit locations in this area and throughout the city. We want to be clear. Coronavirus is a national and international issue, and we're going to treat it as such. And we held a briefing upstairs, so there's no reason to go through it again. We're going to go over to Maspia, and we're going to go over to one of our toy stores to drop our masks, and we're going to be handing out some masks also throughout the borough president, throughout the borough park area. One thing we are clear of, and we are, that came away from this gathering and briefing upstairs, is that this community is saying extremely loud and clear they want to work with the city. And we're going to be holding a meeting, the councilman and I will be holding a meeting with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and community leaders here so they can institute their testing with the oversight of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Throughout COVID-19, there's been a lot of distrust in this city from communities all across New York. Distrust in the reporting, distrust in the testing, distrust in the result. And the only way we can regain trust in how we do the testing and how do we ensure that we are acknowledging the cultural norms of community is to do it in a partnership. And so our goal in the next few days is to bring together the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene and the community leaders to put in place a testing mechanism that regains trust in the city. We're excited about doing that because the community is saying, how do we work in partnership to deal with the real issue of coronavirus? And that is what my goal is to do. We're not going to defeat the coronavirus by fighting with each other, arguing with each other, pointing fingers at each other. We're going to defeat it by coming together as a city and have on-the-ground solutions that is in partnership with the leaders of communities. So we're going to spend time here, we're going into Brownsville, we're going into Flatbush, we're going into parts of Greenpoint. We're going to move throughout the city to ensure, as well as Sunset Park, to ensure that we address the issue and so we don't have a re-emergence of coronavirus. And so right now, we're headed over to one of the most important places in this community, Maspia, to hand out masks, and then we're going to make our way to a few other organizations before we go to other parts of the city. So again, thank you very much for coming out. Now we have a job to do. Thank you.